What's going on, and welcome. Meet Suzanne, or Susan. I'm going to say Susan. Susan, I apologize if this is not how you pronounce your name. Honestly, I really wasn't sure with the Z, so please let it be Susan. That's what I'm going to be saying in this video. Sorry ahead of time. Susan reached out and wondered if she might be making some mistakes with her hair, and well, I'm going to walk you through those mistakes that I'm seeing as potential mistakes. And if you're not new to this series, this is probably going to be one of my longest episodes.
Is that any different?
I have a lot to say, so I talk a lot.
You always have a lot to say.
Fair point, you're killing me. But no, in all honesty, there's going to be a lot of value in this particular video, which I'm really excited to share with you. So you're going to want to stick around. And a big shout out and thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. We'll talk more about them here in a little bit. Okay, so this is going to be a really interesting episode because I'm going to actually talk about some current mistakes that I'm seeing that are happening, and then some potential mistakes that could happen, which might not make a lot of sense to you yet. So let me read you the email that Susan sent so that you can kind of understand where I'm going with this. My name is Susan, and I don't know what to do with my hair. The front is very fine, and it is curly all over. I color it about every 6 weeks. I was trying to grow out my bangs so it would be all one length to see if I liked that look on me. I like to blow my hair straight and use a straight iron. Any suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time. Oh, thank you for actually submitting photos for this kind of scrutiny. Okay, now, before we dive into the mistakes, I did this on my last video, and you guys were kind of amazing. A lot of you nailed it. So I want to try it again. I'm going to go ahead and throw this photo up, and while I explain to the new folks exactly what happens in this actual series, I want you to go ahead and tell me if you can tell what any of the potential mistakes or concerns that I might see would be. So head down in the comments and yeah, let me hear it. So for the new folks, this is an actual series where people send in their photos asking about potential mistakes. My goal is to break down what those mistakes could be, and then more importantly, how they could address those mistakes to get a much more youthful feel. I also go above and beyond that to try to show you in a Photoshop version of exactly what those suggestions would look like if they actually took my advice. And then at the very end, we throw in some curveballs to just show you some different ideas that they could do with their hair. So with all that said, let's dive into the first mistake. Now, the first mistake is that the back is just a tiny bit too long. Now, if you look at the front, it really doesn't look bad at all. This is actually a good length on her. She could go a tiny bit shorter, but realistically, I'm kind of splitting hair. Oh, wow. I'm splitting hairs there. Okay, I'm sorry. See what I did there? I apologize. But nonetheless, the front is actually fine. It could go a tiny bit shorter. But from the profile, that's where we need to bring that back length up a little bit to help offset it bringing the eye down. I would say bringing that length up a tiny bit wouldn't be a bad thing, but again, it's not necessary. If we did bring that up, it would help to kind of offset a little bit more of the rectangular shape of Susan's face shape currently. So that would be a help, but again, it isn't necessary. The back, however, yes, let's bring that up. Now, the second mistake is that the layers in the front are cut a little bit too far back behind the ear. Now, this is extremely evident in this particular photo right here of her profile. Usually what we like to do is actually start those layers right behind the ear and then connect them into the bangs or the shortest layer. But when they come back this far, what you see is that it starts to accentuate the concern of the back being a little bit longer in the first place, which was bringing that eye down, and brings the eye down even more. Now, mistake number 3 is kind of an odd one because I actually don't know if this is happening with her hair or if it's just the lighting in the photo. However, I did think it was a good opportunity to address this concern because I see it happen all the time. The mistake or concern is that the roots are a tiny bit too light, and ultimately, actually, the overall color is just a little bit too on the warm side. Now, I see this happen a lot where the roots are a little bit lighter than the ends, and many times this is a result of applying the color to the roots and then pulling it through the ends too often. This ends up with the roots or the new growth only having that color deposited on it one time versus everything else from the mid shaft to the ends having that color deposited on it multiple times. It means that the ends have a tendency to be darker, and it creates the illusion that the roots are a bit lighter. Darkening those roots would actually help to add a little bit more richness to her skin tone and ultimately give her hair a little bit more of a dense feel as well. Okay, and this is where it gets a little bit more interesting because this is where I start talking about potential concerns. If you remember Susan's email, she mentioned that she's thinking about growing her bangs out more to one length. Now, my concern with that would be that that could potentially add, one, more fullness to the bottom of her hair, which would create a more triangular shape, which I've talked about before, has a tendency to bring the eye down. And aside from adding that width to the bottom, the other concern would be that it would just close her face off too much and just be too heavy in the front overall. And potential mistake number 5, I feel like this is so many mistakes. I'm sorry, Suzanne, it's really not that bad. I don't know, but nonetheless, is another potential concern, and that is that she mentioned in her email that she likes to straighten her out using a flat iron. A flat iron is fantastic for straightening hair out, for smoothing hair out, and also actually can add a lot of volume to hair. I've actually got a video right here if you want to check it out where I break down exactly how to utilize a flat iron for that specific purpose. But with that said, it also can have a tendency to lay hair very flat if not used correctly. I don't know how Susan's using this, so she could be using it spot on. But if she didn't, my concern would be that it would lay her hair too flat and ultimately not create volume in the areas that we want to see volume so that we can accentuate all the great features of her face. All of those things said, should we dive into the with all those things said, should we take a look at what this is gonna, so with all that said, should we take a look at what these suggestions would actually look like on her? Yes, let's do that now. Stop laughing. Before we dive into the suggestions, I do want to just talk real quickly about one very important thing. What we put inside of our body, how we fuel our body, plays a huge role in the way our skin looks, in our energy levels, in our hair's health, all of these things that help us to look more alive and vibrant, and that's very important. And I know for me, and probably my wife as well, I struggle sometimes with eating healthy, unfortunately.
Eat like a 2-year-old.
Only a little bit. Okay, so I do, but thanks to the sponsor of this video, I have the perfect solution for that, and that is HelloFresh. All joking aside, folks, this stuff is amazing, and if you're unfamiliar with them, here's what they're all about. HelloFresh is a meal kit that gets delivered directly to your door, which means that you don't have to go to the store and deal with a bunch of shopping. But most important, it helps you to stay on track because they're pre-portioned ingredients in really tasty meals, and they have tons of different options, which I also love because I get bored. So like tonight, babe, what are we having? We've got a few options here. We've got Mushu pork bowls. We've got balsamic rosemary pork chops. We've got Mexican chicken and rice bowls.
I'm feeling like Mexican.
Mexican chicken rice bowls. Okay, let's be honest. New Year's resolutions, they last until like January 4th. For us, I have been eating like a child, and that's why this is such a huge benefit to me, because this is all like solid, good food. If you're talking about hair health, we're talking about good nutrition. This is clean nutrition. I think one of the best parts about this is that HelloFresh actually offers a lot of super quick and easy meal prep options. They have 20-minute options. They have low prep options, easy cleanup. Okay, this is legit the first time we've ever tried this meal. Let's give it a shot, babe.
I'm hungry.
It looks bomb. Let's try it.
I'm gonna put some lime in it.
Oh, come on now. Up top. HelloFresh has more 5-star ratings than any other meal kit. It is, it makes sense. It's that good. So, if you want to try out this incredible little dish.
And you should.
Yes, you should. Head over to HelloFresh.com and you can actually use the coupon code JustinHickox16 to get to 16 free meals and 3 special little gifts.
I like free gifts.
Yeah, you do. This is bomb. Okay, we're going back to food. That food was bomb.
It was really good.
I'm craving that right now. Legit, it's so good. Again, make sure you head over to HelloFresh.com and you can use the code JustinHickox16, all in caps, and you're gonna get yourself 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. Who doesn't love that? So I was actually gonna move locations to actually show you the suggestions, but that waterfall doesn't suck. I'm not gonna lie. The sun's hitting it, that's dope, right? Yeah. That's okay. So we're gonna stay here. You're welcome. All right, so the first mistake we talked about was the back being a little bit too long, and so this is what it would look like if we brought that length up a little bit. Now, as you can see here, it doesn't look much different from the front view, and it's not supposed to, like I said. However, from the profile, it starts to bring that eye up. So yeah, small change, big difference. Now, mistake number 2 was all about the front being too layered or layered too far back. So if we actually let some of that fill in or grow out and only layered the front from just behind the ear up to the bangs, this is what that would look like. Now, this is a big difference, and if you notice, it starts to, again, accentuate that line up the back of the shape versus down the shape, and that again helps to accentuate cheekbone structure and jaw structure and all that great stuff. But that is a big one, and I see this actually all the time. Now, mistake number 3 was all about the roots potentially being a little bit too light for the midshaft and the ends, and kind of just too warm of an overall color in general. So if we darken the roots a little bit, this is what that would look like. Now, as you can see, the depth adds some richness to her skin tone, but also helps her hair to look a bit denser and thicker. Now, if she did decide to make this move, I would suggest that she uses that darker color at just the roots the next time she colors her hair, and lets that color sit on those roots for the full time necessary to process for whatever that color said. Then you would go back in and apply it from the mid shaft to the ends for just like 10 minutes to help coat that color and essentially match the tone, but not really make it darker. Then moving forward from there, she would only apply it to the roots until the mid shaft and the ends got so light that it bothered her. Then she would pull it through those ends and the mid shaft for like 10 minutes again and recoat that just to kind of bring that color down. Now, the fourth mistake, we talked about potentially growing her bangs out. Now, my concern was that that could close her face off, but more importantly, add too much width to the very bottom of her face, giving it more of a triangular shape and bringing the eye down. So if she were to grow her bangs out one length, this is potentially what that could look like. Now, if you look at this, you'll see that it does add more width, and ultimately it closes her face off and just doesn't really accentuate any of the bone structure and the great features of her face that we want to accentuate. So I would lean more towards where she's at right now. I don't think she needs to go to a strong bang directly across her face or square, but I do think the kind of bangs that she's got right now helps to soften things up, but also gives it a nice sweep over, accentuates the cheekbone structure, and I think ultimately looks really good on her. So yeah, I would stay where you're at, to be honest. And then the fifth mistake, we talked about the concern of not straightening her hair the correct way. Why don't we jump to the curveballs, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that specific concern. Tell me this is not the perfect place for the curveballs. Wrong side. There we go. That side. Are you kidding me? Sunray.
Beautiful.
Doesn't suck. Okay, nonetheless, let's show you some curveballs. Now, again, in Susan's email, she mentioned that she likes to straighten her hair. We just talked about that a second ago. So I wanted to show you an idea or a style that was straight. And I also wanted to show you the appropriate volume in that style. So here would be one option that I think would look fantastic on her. What I love about this particular style is that it isn't a massive jump from where she is currently, but it has a bit more layering, which puts volume in the areas that we want it to be so that we can accentuate what we want to accentuate. Now, there is kind of a purple hue to this, so you're gonna have to kind of overlook that. Actually, this is the color that I had to start with. So yeah, taking that purple out was not easy, but I want you to pay more attention to the depth in the tone and how it reacts to her skin tone, which I believe it adds a lot of richness to. Now, I also wanted to show you with this a version of what it would look like if we actually had those bangs grown out closer to one length, like she mentioned. So this is what that would look like. Now, the thing is, it doesn't even really look bad. This isn't a scenario where this is a terrible look on her, but my concern with this would be that one, it would still run the concern of having too much volume at the bottom, but even if it didn't, and this photo doesn't, it would still run the concern of falling in her face all the time unless she uses a lot of product to hold it back, because that bulk is going to want to pull forward. It isn't a situation where she can easily tuck it behind her ears because she's constantly wearing glasses, so that might be a concern. So for me, it makes more sense to have those layers a little bit shorter and kind of a bang style in the front like she's currently wearing, because one, as you can see here, it helps to open up her face more, but more importantly, it will be back off of her face more. It also cuts right at the cheekbone, which helps to accentuate, again, that cheekbone structure. I also like this overall look because it's not a huge jump from where she currently is, so it's not like she would never consider doing something like this. But as always, the big question is, what do you think? I want to know what you think she should do with their hair. Think she should cut it shorter? Think she should color it? What are your thoughts? Comment below and let me know. All right, you guys have a good one, and we will see you next Tuesday. Take care, everybody. Say bye. Say bye.